Welcome back to Mad Lizard RC. So what I'm going to be doing today is sharpening and balancing a propeller. There might be some information out there, so maybe some people find this helpful. We will see. So this is how I do it. There's many other ways of doing it, but you know, kind of the basic tools. As you know, a balancer right here, magnetic. You can also do the Dubro one. So I like these little sponge, little sand pieces of paper, some hobby files, and depending on, you know, the propeller you're working with, you know, some gloves and some masks. So what I have here is an Octura 3-blade propeller. It is made out of a copper beryllium, which, you know, in a high dust platform is not really good to breathe. So, you know, you definitely want to wear some proper, you know, PPE, personal protective equipment, as to like gloves and mask, maybe even, you know, some type, you know, whatever you need to protect everything. So, you know, basically I'm using a water method. So now I'll take, you know, pretty much files. I will not use like a Dremel or anything to kick up any type of dust. So basically it keeps it very well minimal to the dust. You know, I'll be wearing gloves and a mask. So we're going to start with this. So, you know, the first thing, you know, kind of the basic thing is, you know, we want to put it on a balancer, spin it a couple times. You know, the same thing goes with, you know, all propellers. So what we're doing is finding, you know, that heavy spot, heavy blade. And see how it kind of rolled backwards. And then what I'll do is I'll come back and mark it. So knowing this is my heavy blade. So, you know, I have it here, you know, here. Another trick you can do is, you know, get a small screwdriver, put a drive dog on here, so that way, you know, you can easily, you know, hold your propeller and, you know, do your sharpening and balance. So what I'll usually do is first I'll kind of start with the heavy side, and I'll start working some of the casting marks, you know, sand those guys down, file them, clean up the edge a little bit more, and then you know, start that, and then, you know, kind of throw in the balancer, see what it has, kind of go back and forth. And then usually the sharpening point, you know, I'll kind of start doing last and start kind of working it. 3 blades will take some time versus a 2-blade. 3-blade is just a little bit more challenging. So I'll try to keep the video as short as possible, but it might be a little longer because it is a process. It could take several hours to be able to do it. So, you know, I'll show kind of a little bit of the process, and then we'll kind of come back and forth on it. So first things first, you know, this is the heavy side here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work this casting mark here, and then see how here, you know, bottom side right here, it's kind of nasty looking. So we're going to clean that up a little bit and then come right back. Well, yeah, come right back here in a moment. So, you know, so I will be having a mask on, so bear with me with the voice a little bit. You know, I got a cup of water right here, so what I'll do is I'll take the cup of water, fill it up here, and then I'll just pour it over this and use some simple files and start working it. So start with the heavy side first. First thing to kind of do is, you know, I'll come through, you know, clean that up a little bit. I'm working on just the cast marks, making it just look a little bit cleaner, not so jagged, just like that. Trailing edge, you can see an edge going that way. So, you know, unless you know what you're doing, don't mess with the trailing edge as much as possible, unless you know what you're doing. So what I'm just doing is just taking a little bit of the burrs off. That's all I'm doing on the trailing edge side. And then, you know, I got this guy right here, and I'm just doing a light file right now, just working the casting marks, getting some of those burrs off, and trying to get the propeller as smooth as possible. And now I'm just using the water back and forth until look good. You may need a couple different files, you know, rat's tail right here, getting into the corners. See on that side, so I got the casting mark, you know, taken down. I got a little bit of casting in this corner still left. So, you know, what I usually do is start working the castings first, marks, and just getting it cleaned up. Oh, that looks better. You know, back and forth in the water. All right, so the casting mark's cleaned up. It looks a little bit better now. There we go. So that's just one side. So now from here, I'll take this. Now, when it comes to, you know, this is me, is you get your trailing edge here. You know, a lot of people don't mess with it. I will mess with it, as, you know, it's a modification I'll do. And, you know, the ABC props, they seem to like it, but the sharper this trailing edge is, you know, not rounded, you know, sharp as possible, you know, square as best as possible, the better. So the trailing edge here, what, you know, I'm going to do is we're going to square it to the face of the hub like this, because right now it's not. And, you know, it just depends on the propellers. I've done one just like this before where I faced it like that, and it seemed to actually work really good. So, you know, I'm just going to go out. I'm just going to do the same thing. So we're just going to face it. Now, if you're just getting into doing this, I would not do this. You know, I would just do the basic sanding marks and, you know, basic sharpening. You know, I would not go after a lot of this stuff here, what I'm doing here, because you can easily mess up a propeller if you're not careful. So, yep, so now nice and square coming off that. It's not, we'll just do a little bit more. Just like that. So, you know, it's nice and square to the face of the hub. And then, you know, I do got a little bit of casting mark here. So from this point from here, you know, after I got that, you know, I'll take some of the sponge sandpaper right here, because, you know, when doing the face here, you want to try to clean it up, make it smooth. Some people do, you know, polishing. Some people will really thin the blades out. I don't technically like to thin the blades, you know, even though you can gain a little bit more power out of the propeller, more performance, but, you know, you do take away some of the thickness of the blades and potentially, you know, snap a blade or something like that. So I will sacrifice a little bit of that just to have a stronger propeller blade. That's it. So other than that, you know, you can see, keep doing the water. It helps keep the dust down. Now there's other methods you can do, as like spraying. There's like a spray spray stuff that you can use. It's sticky. So, but, you know, to me, water is just, it's always around. So all we're doing is just taking the casting marks. We're just cleaning the propeller up with this. And it just takes time. So you just, so I'm just kind of cleaning the face up a little bit. So, you know, that's some 180. You know, here's some 320. And we're just cleaning the face up for right now. So it just cleaned up. It's not, you know, we'll kind of come back a little bit more into it. So, you know, we're kind of hitting some of the casting marks over here and just getting it nice and smooth. So, you know, that's the face. You don't really want to mess with the face at all, unless, again, you know what you're really doing, because you can easily screw up a prop. So now that part is done. We'll come back to a little bit more, but it gives kind of the basic idea. You know, you're just cleaning up the casting marks. Now the back side of the propeller, as you can see here, is where you want to do a lot of your work. Right in here, getting it nice and sharp, and then getting it smooth. And a lot of people will try to thin the backside, you know, blades out on the backside too. Again, you know, I like to have a little more strength in my propellers because some of the shit they go through. So, you know, strength over performance on, you know, for me. So the easiest thing to do, flat file, and then work your way around like this. And if it's easier, sometimes grab a rag. I got some paper towels here, because after a while, these, you know, holding it like this, it will become sharp really quickly. You can easily slice your finger too. When I'm sharpening, I'm not going for like a razor sharp. I'm going for a sharp but kind of dull. You have to cut a piece of paper, but not like a knife sharp for handling. So just kind of keep moving around like that. You know, use a little bit of water. It helps control everything and the dust. And we're just going to keep working the blade around like this. Until we get it, you know, that sharpness how we want. And so we'll work the sharpness. And then from here, once I get this all sharp, and, you know, from here, I'm going to continue on until I get it nice and sharp, and then show the next step. Alright, so got a lot of it sharpened down already, and just continue filing until, you know, back and forth looking at it. So from here, I'll do I'll do what I call a paper test. So, you know, I'll bring the prop over here, piece of paper, and roll the blade through it. So if it can cut a piece of paper like this, like a knife, you know, not sharp enough, you know, close enough. Now you can do it even sharper, get it farther more. You know, there's a lot of different ways going about it. And so, you know, now we're, you know, sharp here. And get some of the water off that, because that can cause a balancing problem too. So from here, we'll throw it on a balancer and see where it lands now, because it should be, a different blade should be heavier. And you just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until you have it just right. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll take that heavy side and continue on going until it becomes lighter than the other ones. Right now that side is still showing a little on the heavier side. It's still coming down, so, you know, when I'm to that point now, you know, I'm sharp to how I want it. A little bit of water. And then this point here is I'll start taking the file, and where I did all my sharpening, you know, try to get that edge to transition as cleanly as possible. So, you know, I'll start working that. You know, the idea also, what I'm trying to do is take a little bit of weight out of this side, so that way the other ones will become a little heavier. And then, you know, and I just repeat this process over and over and over. For the people doing two blades, it's a much faster and simpler process. Water. And this is like another process of, like, you know, thinning the blades too, is just doing this. And, you know, you can easily have hours and hours into propellers. And that's probably why a lot of times they're so expensive, you know, doing the balancing and sharpening portion, because it is a process. It takes time. Sometimes it will take me, you know, 4 to 6 hours, you know, back and forth on it until getting it right. So now it's starting to drop to where, you know, the next propeller over is, next blade over is my heavier side. And it's just a process. Yeah, so now this one's starting to fall. This one's becoming a little lighter. So I want to take a little bit more off the back side, making it a little bit lighter. Get a little bit of wet. And then also when you come back and do your finishing sanding and getting everything smoothed out, you know, remember that takes away a little bit of weight too. Okay, so now in a sense the other blade should drop. So this one's still more. So basically, it's like watching paint dry. So it's a little bit better. I want to file just a little bit more and then file a little bit more. All right, so kind of recovering now to where, you know, I took some of that, you know, sponge sandpaper and finished off sanding off in here, try to clean that a little bit more. I got more to go. So now we could take it, put it back onto our balancer again, back and forth a million times. Didn't have to spin it that fast. And we just go back and forth. And so basically what I'm trying to do is get it light enough to where other blades start working itself. So now, you know, this side is heavy. Again, it's a permanent marker. We're gonna mark it, spin it one more time, just confirm. And we're just gonna go back and forth just like this. So now that side's heavy. So I'm gonna do that process again and come back. All right, so got all three blades all sharpened. Now it's time to work the balance. And so from here, we put it back on the balancer. Yeah, it stopped. And I do this multiple times and looking for it, because in a sense you want the propeller to stop in any position. And see right there, it's got that little bit of a rock rotation. You don't want that. Even with the two blades, sometimes they'll balance out like this, but what you should be able to do is take the propeller, spin it, and it needs to be in any position. So if it can't, then it's somewhere, then it's off. So right now, you know, I've marked it to this right here. It's showing, you know, nothing, just a slight rock. So to me, it looks like just not a lot of material that's gonna come off. So we're just gonna take some 180, hit the back side of the blade. And just keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until no rocking. The blade will stay in place. And then some 320, clean up the 180 a little bit more. It's a process. So took a little bit of meat off that, not much. Put it back on the balancer. Spin it. We want no rock. It may take a little bit more, so you see that little bit of that rock? And sometimes it could be in the hub too. But that is a lot better now. So you still got a little bit of that. You just do is I'll take a pen marker. So far it's showing me it's kind of this blade right here. So I get it past, like right there, see it stops. And then this one's bringing it back down. It's a process. So right there, and then it's that one right there. So we'll mark it a little bit more. Back at it until we get it just right. And being careful not removing too much, because if you remove too much, then you take off too much, then you're going to have to go to some other blades and do the same thing. So it's just little by little. And it's a process too. And this is why sometimes propellers cost so much. They just can be time consuming. A lot of work that goes into them. And patience. Lots and lots of patience. I've been so far 3 hours so far into just this one right now. Almost equivalent to an hour per blade. Alright, this is my other video. Camera I was using died, so it's on the charger. So to finish up and follow, so after going back and forth on the sanding process, taking a little bit of weight off that one side, and the main accomplishment you want to do is get it to a point to where it will stop, it will not rock. If it's two blade, yeah, if it balances out like this, yeah, but you want to spin it multiple times. And so in theory, you should be able to put it in any position and the prop will stay. So I bump it a couple times, stops, bump it, stop, spin the other direction, stop, bump, stop, stop. So just like that. One last good measure. I will do this multiple times, back and forth, and it's just a process. So I'm gonna do a couple more things and come back one last time. All right, so finally, one last personal modification. You can see the little dots. Those have a purpose, but to clean. And then one last thing I like to do with these props is throw them in a little bit of vinegar, and it adds a little bit of a nicer shine to it. Other than that, it is ready for a boat. Coming up soon. So that's a little bit of a propeller balancing, maybe a couple modifications for people that don't, if this is your first time doing something like this, don't do a lot of the modifications or the trailing edge, flattening out or anything like that. Just keep it basic. Just your sharpening and balancing. Just keep it basic until you feel comfortable about doing more things to the propeller. And be warned that if you modify them or change them, that you can easily damage a propeller. You can easily turn it into a paperweight. So keep that in mind. I've done a few of these like this and with a good success. And of course I've messed up my few share of propellers, and of course they're paperweights, and it's kind of part of boating itself. You want to get into it, but there's also specialized people of doing it too. So sometimes better to professionals, and sometimes even for me, I'll be lazy. And I'll pay a couple of professionals like Dash Boda you know, because he does some really good work. And, you know, sometimes I'm just lazy. And then also still support him as well, too. So anyway, so thanks for watching. And a little bit of balancing. So I'm going to get my mess all cleaned up and, yeah, start a new project. Please like and subscribe.